1899 has the potential to be a unique and creative show for fans of mysterious sci-fi, but is it setting me up for disappointment? Stick around and I'll share my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of the series premiere for 1899 on Netflix. The synopsis for the show on IMDb reads multinational immigrants, which I really liked, the kind of multilingual vibe of the show. It always immerses me a little bit more. Multinational immigrants traveling from the old continent to the new encounter a nightmarish riddle aboard a second ship adrift on the open sea. The synopsis for episode 1 reads, passengers on an immigrant ship traveling to the new continent get caught in a mysterious riddle when they find a second vessel adrift on the open sea. And episode 2's synopsis says the captain experiences inexplicable glimpses of the past. A strange man follows Mora to her cabin where a boy is hiding. An insect leads to a tragedy on deck. Okay, so this is described by genre tags on Netflix as a mind-bending and an ominous show, which I would really agree with. Most of the premise is set up like a historical whodunit in terms of like the characters, the setting, stuff like that. You know, it's got this ensemble on a closed environment, a boat, who in 1899, who all have secrets that they want to keep hidden from each other. But instead of a central murder, the central mystery is the ship they discover and the mystery of what happened to it, what happened to its passengers, as well as the explanation for the increasingly strange happenings on their own ship, which are that weirdness is a little bit more exposed to the audience. The characters are a little slower to kind of realize that there's some of these weird things going on. Along with the central mystery, 1899, I think, has a nice focus on characters, with multiple subplots and motivations for characters that are slowly and tantalizingly, I think, revealed in pieces, but I'm ultimately not sure if I want to invest in their stories. Why is that? Well, in the opening moments, so this is not a spoiler, because this is the opening moments, the opening seconds of the first episode. There's after a voiceover reciting a poem about the mysteries and vastness of the brain, the main character appears in an insane asylum, not on a boat, but in an insane asylum, ranting about being on boats and claiming she's not crazy. Orderlies return her to her room, number 1011. Hold on to that number. Then she seemingly awakens in a passenger steamboat, walks to a mirror, and assures herself of her name. She tells herself the year is 1899, but at first stumbles and starts saying a year that starts with 19. She then walks out of her room to join the other passengers. Behind her, the door closes, also bearing the room number 1011. After this opening sequence, there are only very rare hints that reality may not be what it seems. They are so few and far between, these little weird happenings that make me question reality, that I think the writers really want us to settle in and invest in the reality of the story on this boat in 1899. But honestly, if this turns out to be some kind of shared hallucination among patients at an insane asylum, I will feel like I've wasted a lot of time. Even in the introduction at the very end, like the last thing you see is like a face in the water and then a boat kind of diagonally going up toward the eye. And I'm like, I can almost imagine that looking like where you, in the olden days, where they put the needle for the lobotomy. Is that what this is all going to be? That these are just lobotomized patients in a dream world or something like that? I really, I would feel like I wasted a lot of time. I would rather discover that something genuinely supernatural or science fiction-y is going on, like time travel or Lovecraftian weirdness. And there is this recurring imagery of pyramids that makes me wonder if it could go in that kind of direction. But then again, maybe those are just psychological manifestations. But then again, you have to ask yourself, how can these people really share hallucinations? I mean, that's one of the arguments against the idea, just getting off topic for a second, that the witnesses of Jesus' resurrection, were hallucinating. Well, nobody buys into that theory, even skeptics, because it's like, you can't share hallucinations. That's really just such a weird, bizarre phenomenon, and nobody really buys into that. But I can't... I should say scholars. I'm sure people buy into shared hallucinations. But I can't shake the suspicion that this will be one of those it was all a dream stories, which I'm just not interested in. Currently, having just watched 2 episodes, it is following the pattern of the show Lost, wherein it continues introducing new mysteries in far greater number than it provides any answers. I can probably watch 1 or 2 more episodes like that at most. But by or before the halfway point of this 8-episode season, if it isn't giving stronger indication of the essential nature of the mystery, I'm probably out. I don't need to have everything revealed, but I want to know. I want to have reason to really suspect this is not just hallucinations in an insane asylum. However, if it starts indicating that it's more than a dream or a hallucination, I can see myself continuing to be very invested until the end of the season at least. As far as the cast goes, I don't have a ton to say. I've really felt like they were all solid, and that's really valuable in this kind of storytelling because many times the story is carried without dialogue, but instead only by imagery and by performances, not in some kind of artsy, weird way, but in the sense that characters aren't always talking, but they are almost always emoting and taking me on their personal journey in that way. And I really connect with stories more when they leverage that kind of storytelling along with, of course, using dialogue. As far as stunts and visuals, I mean, there's really not much in either category. The weirdness is expressed more through the recurrence of shapes like this recurring triangle motif that's showing up that suggest a meta-reality intruding on the setting, and other imagery that doesn't require, digital effects. But the show really doesn't feel any less fantastical or less part of the geek genre for the fact that it doesn't have a lot of visual effects. So, I mean, I have no complaints there. I don't always talk about the score, but I do want to mention that the music has a modern, subtly electronic sensibility to it recurringly throughout. And I think that's another potential indication that the future or modern day is somehow connected to the events of the story. Maybe not. It could just be a stylistic choice, but it feels like that they're kind of going for something that's anachronistic on purpose, to kind of I don't know, suggest that this world is not that we shouldn't completely accept the time period. As far as themes, I always like to ask myself, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Well, with things being so mysterious right now, it's hard to know what themes they will play with. That is more likely, I think, to come out when we finally know what's what. But I did find it interesting, really as a side note. So this is the most I could come up with to really talk about in this part of the review. But there's a prominent gay character in the ensemble cast that's also sinister and somewhat predatory, even by his own self-description. And a brief, non-explicit makeout scene between 2 men is accompanied by dark and sinister music. Now, I certainly don't take from this that the filmmakers have a negative view of homosexuality. Instead, it strikes me as another indication that the use of gay characters is increasingly settling into the norm enough that they are less and less forced to be purely likable and otherwise virtuous characters, which I think was a trend for a time. I suspect the same will eventually happen with transgender and other characters in the LGBTQ plus spectrum. I don't really have any additional comment on that for now, but it was just a blip on my radar as I continue to monitor how sexuality and identity is treated in the continually changing landscape of entertainment. All right. I have no idea what your tastes are in TV shows, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, "You are not insane. The year is 1890. No. Give this one a try. You're gonna want to give your full attention to it because of the way the story is told. It's nonverbal at times, but it's serious, it's ominous, it's mind-bending. I mean, these kinds of things are your bag. So, I mean, as long as it doesn't all turn out to be a dream, it might be something that you really find enjoyable and memorable. So give it a shot, Pater. It's rated TVMA for language, sexual violence, and smoking. And those are all my thoughts for now on the series premiere for $18.99 on Netflix. Right now, I'd like to take some time to write a tune for pre-made rhyme. The lyrics kind of never change, but the melody gets rearranged. I never know what I'll create to say how much I appreciate Dan Excel, John Reading, Gabriel Stinson, Brian Franklin, Olin D. Branham, Drew Up, Winston Crutchfield, Lee Bray, Justin D. Myers, Cosmic Fox, and Joel Nelson. Thank you for supporting me and SPP and CGC. And now to all who hear this tune, thank you as well. Please come back soon. Want to hear your name in song? Check out our page on Patreon. I do want to say, Just an extra thanks again to everybody on the on the tier to get your name in the stupid thank you song every month. So many of you have been on that tier for a long time and just been like support warriors of mine, and I really, really do appreciate you. So just an extra special thank you so much for everybody on that tier. I would love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders, all of them, for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/Spirit Blade Productions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.